The merciless sun beat down on the cracked earth, indistinguishable from the sky in its blinding ferocity. Sarah pressed her forehead against the passenger window of their crippled SUV, the glass radiating heat like a furnace. Beside her, David gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white, his eyes scanning the endless, undulating dunes. Their GPS had died 2 days ago, a cruel electronic silence in the heart of the Rub al Khali. They had veered off course, chasing a mirage of a distant road, and now they were utterly, hopelessly lost. "Any luck with the satellite phone, David?" Sarah's voice was a dry rasp. Her throat felt like sandpaper. He shook his head, a grim line set on his lips. "Nothing. Just static. We're too deep, too far from any signal." Their water was critically low, enough for perhaps another day if they rationed carefully. Food was a dwindling supply of energy bars. The AC, once a luxury, was now a desperate memory. The engine had sputtered its last breath hours ago, leaving them marooned in a silent, suffocating hell. "We have to move," David said, his voice hoarse. "If we stay here, we die here." I saw a faint ridge, maybe a few miles east, before the engine gave out. It might offer some shade, a different perspective. Sarah looked at the vast, shimmering expanse. The idea of walking, of exposing themselves to that relentless sun, felt like a death sentence. But staying was a slower, more certain one. She nodded, a knot of fear tightening in her stomach. They packed what little water they had left, a few energy bars, a first aid kit, and their satellite phone, a useless talisman of hope. As they stepped out, the heat hit them like a physical blow, stealing their breath. The sand was scalding under their boots. Their progress was agonizingly slow. Every step was a monumental effort, the soft sand yielding beneath their weight. The sun, a malevolent eye, seemed to follow their every move. By midday, their remaining water supply had dwindled further. David, ever the pragmatist, forced them to rest under the meager shade of a small, scrubby bush, its leaves as dry and brittle as parchment. "We have to stay together, Sarah," he said, his voice strained. No matter what we see or what we hear. This desert, it plays tricks." He didn't need to elaborate. They had heard the old Bedouin tales before they embarked on their ill-fated adventure. Stories of Djinn, of travelers driven mad by unseen forces and cruel illusions. David, a scientist by profession, had always dismissed them as superstition. Now with the sun scorching his skin and the heat blurring the horizon, he wasn't so sure. As dusk approached, painting the sky in fiery hues, they stumbled upon what looked like a derelict campsite. A tattered tent, long since abandoned, flapped weakly in the rising wind. A corroded water flask lay half buried in the sand, and amidst the debris, a small, worn tablet. David picked it up. Its screen was cracked, but a single image was still faintly visible. A man's face, wide-eyed and terrified. It was a haunting image, one that spoke of a deep, profound despair. "Someone else was here," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible over the growing wind. "Someone didn't make it." That night, huddled inside the flimsy, decaying tent, the whispers began. They were soft at first, carried on the wind, just at the edge of comprehension. A woman's laugh, a child's cry, the murmur of distant conversation. David tried to dismiss them as the wind playing tricks, but Sarah saw the fear in his eyes. "It's not real, David," she whispered, pulling closer to him. "It's just the desert. It's trying to break us." But then, the whispers grew clearer. They began to call their names, Sarah, David, their names repeated in a chorus of disembodied voices, that seemed to emanate from the very air around them. The sand outside their tent began to swirl, a fine dust seeping in through the tattered fabric. David clutched the satellite phone, a desperate hope flaring in his chest. "I have to try again, Sarah. Maybe there's a signal now, just a faint one." He tried, his thumb hovering over the dial button. But as he did, a new sound cut through the chorus of whispers. A low, guttural growl, not from an animal, but something ancient and malevolent. It seemed to come from directly beneath their feet, vibrating through the sand. Suddenly the tattered tent flap ripped open, torn by an unseen force. A swirling vortex of sand, illuminated by the pale moonlight, formed outside. Within it, a shape began to coalesce. Tall, impossibly thin, its form wavering like smoke. Its eyes, two burning embers, fixed on David. "It's just a mirage, David," Sarah screamed, her voice cracking with terror. "Don't look at it. It's not real." But David couldn't tear his eyes away. The creature's gaze held him captive, a cold, unyielding grip on his sanity. The whispers intensified, pouring into his mind, telling him stories of impossible oases, of cool water and salvation, if only he would follow. He saw Sarah, her face contorted in fear, reaching for him, but her voice was fading, becoming just another whisper in the storm. "David!" she screamed, as the swirling sand began to pull at their feet. The creature was stretching out a long, shadowy arm, beckoning him. He felt himself being drawn, an unseen force tugging at his will. The promise of water, of relief, was overwhelming. He just needed to take one step, just one step, into the shimmering vortex. Sarah, with a strength she didn't know she possessed, lunged forward, grabbing his hand with a vice-like grip. "No, David, please, don't go. It's not real. It's the Djinn." Her desperate plea, her touch, pierced through the illusion, a fragile anchor in the rising tide of madness. David blinked, the burning eyes of the creature momentarily losing their hold. He saw Sarah, truly saw her, her face streaked with tears and sand, her hand clutching his as if her life depended on it, which it did. He tore his gaze away from the swirling vortex, from the burning eyes, and focused on Sarah. He pulled her closer, his arms wrapping around her, shielding her from the terror. "Hold on, Sarah," he rasped, his voice raw. "Hold on to me." The Djinn's laughter, a dry, grating sound, echoed in their minds. The sand vortex intensified, trying to pull them apart, to draw them into its ancient maw. But they held on, two fragile humans clinging to each other in a landscape designed to break them. They didn't know if they would survive the night. They didn't know if they would ever escape the sands of Shaitan. But in that moment, in the face of an impossible evil, they had found something even more powerful than fear, the unbreakable bond between them, and that perhaps was their only hope.